big and small, do things that I help them with. And no matter what the size, I love doing this.
Thank you, John, appreciate it.
John, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
When you get asked, how can you move forward with a project without having the funding in place or having a big bank account or just being able to write a single check? Even though we haven't identified the project yet, how do you respond to you know, it's a valid question. You don't go and buy a house without being able to, you know, be able to secure financing or to have money saved or something like that. And there's concern in the community, and I think it's important to answer that question. How do you build something for the community when the mayor can't pull out his checkbook and write a check for cash?
No mayor can. And if he can, he should be indicted, right? Now, I did the first major municipal bankruptcy in the United States. I got them out of bankruptcy. It was Orange County in 1994. There they screwed up. But every municipality is dealing with these issues. Where does the money come from to make this work?
Orange County was retirement funds, wasn't it?
It was, no, well that and it's California, right?
Or that was at the high wages one.
Well, no, what it was Cicerone, who was the, Orange County is a AAA county, billions and billions of dollars there, very similar to right around my apartment. But anyway, what happened there is that the county finance director started getting cute with Merrill Lynch. This is all public record. And Merrill Lynch started selling them derivatives. And I won't go into what a derivative is, but you never know the value of a derivative until the end of the day of each day, right? So, anyways, so he needed more money to make more money if he was making money. It ended up being a Ponzi scheme. He wrote a statute that the state legislature passed saying that all the school districts in Orange County and throughout California, all the districts in Orange County must, but all the districts in California may invest in this wonderful fund. He's making tons of money. Interest rates are high. If that happens to you, there's a problem. You know it can't be. If it's too good to be true, you've heard this, it won't work. Well, anyways, when the market crashed in '94, the debt market, then all of a sudden all his derivatives collapsed and he owed money. And he had no money to continue his Ponzi scheme. And it all collapsed and Orange County went bankrupt. It's incredible. But anyways, to answer your question, our goal is if there is any borrowing, it be tax exempt. What tax exempt borrowing means clearly is that when the people buy your tax exempt bonds, they are lending you the money. They buy your bond, they lend you money, but you will pay them interest rates, except for the CREBs that we talked. You'll pay them a certain rate, right? Tax exempts are less than taxable because the income from those bonds to the investor is tax exempt to the investor. That's the beauty of tax exempts, and that has helped build this country of ours. It's the advantage of tax exempts. Now, in order to fund over a period of time, it's going to take maybe 2 to 3 years to finish, you can issue tax-exempt bond or revenue, whatever we decide it's going to be, anticipation notes. And those notes can maintain their tax-exempt status by paying for professional fees before the bonds are issued, if they are issued at all. If not, the other funding sources can be used to pay off the tax-exempt notes. They're in anticipation of the completion of funding for the project. And there are things you have to do to maintain that tax-exempt status. And so, for example, the board will be asked to pass pretty soon a reimbursement resolution. And so long as that's done within 60 days after the payment, then that payment can be included in the tax-exempt issue to fund it. We can also use grant funds to fund it. And we're doing that throughout. And so, as we work with the mayor and staff and the engineers, seeing when they need the monies, we keep thinking of what's the cheapest way to fund that and to reimburse the general fund if possible. And I want to stress if possible, because there's a lot of variables that go into tax exemption. But I wrote a book on the federal tax code since '86 on, with regard to municipal securities, and I wrote a book on leasehold revenue bonds and cops. So, we know this stuff. Does that answer the question, Mr. Mayor? Or folks, members of the...
Over the last many years, the city's budgeted money annually to help pay for these, or to put money into a city hall capital outlay or a savings account, if you will. And those funds were determined by the council to be used not only as a savings account for a municipal center or a community center like this, but also the work that you guys in Crescendo are doing to help lay the groundwork, to help identify all of the things that we're needing to see if a project like this can happen and to see it from its infancy to construction phase. What are we missing? What have we, is there anything that needs to be done, or has the city missed
Yes.
steps, or have we?
We haven't missed steps, but we asked for this meeting following the agenda that was set up by Scott and the others on the team. It was now time to come visit with you folks. And two things I want to stress. You need to select a bond counsel now. Now, that's a lawyer, heaven forbid, but he is called a bond lawyer. We may not even issue bonds, but he knows about tax exemption, he or she. And you get them now, they are primarily paid out of the proceeds from the bond issue if it's ever sold. If it's not sold, they don't get paid. It's a contingency, they know that, that's industry standard. You also need a municipal advisor. I could do that for you, but there's a new federal rule since the 2008 crash that resulted from the Dodd-Frank Act. And what it said, Dodd-Frank Act, which was signed in 2008 in a knee-jerk reaction, I think, to the crash. It was good to do, but nevertheless, it gave the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the federal one, authority to police financial advisors. So they did it, was called, it's very complex, and I helped write some of those rules, but nevertheless, there's now a rule since July of 2014 called the Municipal Advisor Rule. And municipal advisors, they keep calling themselves financial advisors, but they're municipal advisors. Now can be tested, now have to maintain certain standards, have to be registered with the SEC and the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. The idea is to bring in the quality and enhance the quality of municipal advisors. We are not registered as a municipal advisor, we're an engineering firm. But there is an exemption where if you hire a municipal advisor, and we recommended a firm, if you hire a municipal advisor, then we can work with that municipal advisor in the city and bring ideas to you. And again, we don't charge anything for this service. But in order to do it under the federal rules now, we have to meet an exemption to the municipal advisor's rule. What I mean by exemption, it's an exemption from registration as a municipal advisor, and we are not registered as a municipal advisor. So we work with communities under that program.
If the city were to move ahead and hire a municipal advisor like what you're asking for, and for some reason the community chose not to move ahead with a project, what does that do with the contract with that municipal advisor?
You can always terminate any contract in the financing side, however the contract's written. So usually it's 30 days or 15 days written notice, but if you're not working well together, everybody just goes their way, right? But they are out money, they're out a potential fee because they are not involved in the sale of the municipal securities or whatever. You would pay for out-of-pocket expenses, and you monitor that. They have to get permission under the agreement that I showed you. They have to get permission for any expenses from the mayor or staff before they can incur expenses that are reimbursable. But their fee, they're out the fee because their bonds were never sold.
Now, does their contract call for specific tasks, like the contract that
Yes.
the council did with you guys?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the council will know, like with you guys, what's done up front and what's expected out of that contract? I mean,
It's not as detailed as engineering because we're not building a widget. We're monitoring the funding of the widget. So our input will come and go as the as the widget comes along. I can always be here and explain to the council what's going on and where things stand on the budgeting side. But it's difficult. Once they decide to do what we're gonna do, then yes, we can give you exact budget steps. Ma'am, I think you had a question.
I have a question for Mayor Kimmel. You mentioned that money's been set aside in a fund for this. How much money is in that fund?
I don't know what's been expended in 2015, but the amount that's been budgeted over the last several years was $350,000 minus expenses that have been contracted through Crescendo as well as Strain Associates.
The Standard & Poor's report said that program, whoever was responsible for developing it, is a positive for the community. Because you're budgeting for, it's like budgeting for repairs and stuff like that. It's budgeting for things that are going to happen, that we don't know exactly.
John, can you say that again, please?
The Standard & Poor's report that gave the city an A rating, which is a good rating, considering this concentration by one employer. They say here, and I can't pull it up again for some reason, but they said in here, I think I mentioned their first words and didn't read the whole sentence. The budgetary practices of the city over the last couple of years, and they understand they're continuing, are positive. And one of the positives they mentioned was putting money aside to deal with things that pop up. They didn't say pop up, they used a nice term. But it's things that come along that you didn't budget for because a municipality doesn't have a credit card.
Thank you. A couple of examples of that I want to point out. We've got a City Hall Capital Outlay Fund. We've got a fund for preserving our parks in case a merry-go-round goes down or something like that. We've got an outlay fund for our aquatic center. We started a trees capital outlay fund, a monument preservation fund to help take care of all the monuments in the park that have been generously donated. An investigation fund that's been provided in case there's any internal investigations or employee issues. A street machinery fund, a street cleaning fund, which provides for equipment including street sweeping machinery. A traffic control capital outlay fund that has helped us with our signage in the community, and a garbage truck fund. So those have been extremely positive for the community. They've been saving funds for us. And I touched on it at our last meeting 2 weeks ago in this building, but I want to highlight this again. In the past, there's been questions about how a department can budget X amount of dollars in a given year. And the example that was given was in the street department. You know, they budget 400 and some thousand, but they spent 600,000. And I got asked, is that financial fiduciary responsibility? And I think, John, what you just said there was absolutely it is, because while the expenditure shows that we spent that much money, what it's not showing and what is the bladder on the street is that we've saved for that equipment. And when we go buy that equipment, we take the money out of that fund and we pay for it. And when you've got the standards and for endorsing budgetary practices like that with capital outlay accounts to save responsibly for a city hall or machinery or anything else, I'll take that feather, because the city's in great financial shape because of efforts like that.
I think it's important to note that Moody's, Standard & Poor's, Kohl's, and Fitch, the four rating agencies, Moody's and S&P are the top ones, really, the most relied on by investors. They can't be influenced by anybody. So what they say is exactly what they see. And if they, anyways, that's the way it works. So no matter how nice or mean I am to them, it would have no impact on the rating.
And the only thing that I wish that we would have had was 3 generations ago, somebody started saving for something like this rather than starting it 5 years ago. That would have helped us a whole lot farther on the little yellow brick road we're going down now.
Well, I really love that saying. It sounds so cute. But if things want to stay the same, things have got to change. You might as well start now. Because things do have to. In order for things to stay the same, things do have to change. We've got to get this economy diversified. And if this is a hub or an attraction for diversification, it's very important.
So standard for, they look at actually furniture, but what about the Golden Pump, the Nelson Muffler, Screen Graphics?
Well,
The rest of the businesses?
They, in that statement where they said they had, the city has 6,000 active employees on a given day. They are that's an example of how diversified we are to date. But they emphasize as a negative that a third of that 6,000, more than a third, is from one company. So they acknowledge what you're asking, and they didn't list them all. But nevertheless, they're aware of all of them. They look at the city's financials, the top taxpayers, blah, blah, blah. But they focused on the fact that over 33% of your tax revenue and support, and additional support that Ashland gives the city. It's phenomenal what they do for the community. But nevertheless, 1/3 is with one industry and one employer.
And that's typical, not just in jobs with the city of Arcadia. I mean, God bless them all, and we're very grateful to have Ashley here. I mean, Ashley's a game changer in the community, just like Nelson and GNP Company, and we're lucky to have him here. And we've got to do everything we can to continue that strong growth and performance and that presence here. But they also have that same, not the same percentage, but a similar picture of a percentage as far as the amount of taxes that they pay, their utility rates, whether it's water and wastewater with GNP or the electrical charges and the usage by Ashley. And, even going down from some of those larger companies, everybody's a player, but just to spread that out and diversify absolutely is a goal of ours.
One of my clients in Michigan was Midland, where Dow is. And they have a great relationship back and forth, back and forth. And I said Ashland, I'm sorry, I meant Ashland. Thank you very much.
Okay, so where are we now? Where are we, what do we do now? We talked about, we need a bond lawyer, we need a risk advisor. We definitely need a spot where this is gonna be. I don't know where we are on that. Mr. Mayor, maybe you have some ideas on that. We have an idea where we wanna be, but,
Sure.
but I don't know, where we are along that route, so.
Well, I think the most important thing is if you go back to this page right here, everybody see this page with the three green lines on? Go down to your sixth line down, the third asterisk. Create the project building committee, and then the next one, review new sites. I think that our next step needs to be the acknowledgement that this isn't a pipe dream of the city councils or the mayors or a few staff members or something. I think the folks here said it absolutely right, that it's gonna be a centerpiece of the community, and therefore it needs that building committee made up of stakeholders and people in the community that not only will help create what that project and what that vision is gonna be, but help bring the teamwork and the momentum and the enthusiasm behind it to help make that happen. And that's gonna be a coordinated effort with that committee, with the folks that we see here, and as well as Crescendo, because this is a community centerpiece. It's many services that are important in our community, and it's certainly something that deserves the credibility of taking the politics out of it and making it into a community growth strategy and a centerpiece of the community.
So
And I think that that's our next steps, is helping to identify who those players for that building committee would be. I know Crescendo has asked recently for something similar in the same step as far as moving ahead with talking with some of the stakeholders. And I think getting Crescendo and Strand together here does something that any one or two people in the community can't do. They're putting the professional face on a very important opportunity here, taking the local politics out of it, taking the personalities out of it, and guiding it to what it has the potential to be.
My enthusiasm does not mean to imply it's easy. We have to be creative here, but we're good at that, and you're good at that, in your businesses and in whatever you do for a living. We have to be creative, and it can work.
it's a process. I mean, like I said, I've been through this many times, and at times it's painful, but you know, as long as you're moving forward and you can get as many people in the loop as possible so that everybody understands where the decisions were made, why they were made, and, you know, not everybody's gonna agree on what that should be, but you gotta try to get as many people as possible and agree and at least come to bring it all to a head.
So going forward here, our Economic Development Committee, Mr. Mayor, would be part of that perhaps, or what?
Well,
I
I
know
think-
we've got a committee that is related to that, so would that be part of that step so we can move forward?
I think definitely, getting together, what I'd like to see at some point is, members of the council, the different committees bringing forth, suggestions and names from people in the community that have the drive and the ability, to be able to be a stakeholder here and help create what this vision is gonna be, what it can turn into being. I certainly don't want any kind of a misconception out there that, you know, I think you guys said it right, you know, that it's not a city council project, it's not a staff project, it's not an engineer project, it's a community project. And getting those stakeholders from all the different groups, you know, I think we can talk with the fire board and get representatives from there, and ambulance coordinator, and police, and, you know, all the different entities involved, and, you know, and I think the most important thing is the public involvement for two reasons. You don't wanna create a project and then take it to the community and say, here's what we've created. You want the community to help create what it is, because it's their centerpiece, it's our centerpiece as a community. And, you know, you don't wanna just say, here's a bill of goods that we created for you, you know, we want that transparency, we want everybody's input. We wanna throw everything on the table as a community and see what it becomes, cause that's the exciting part.
You won't get grant money without community involvement, because their first question is, who's doing this? Who knows about this? How broad is the support for this project that we're gonna give you $500,000 for? And that's what you're addressing, Mr. Mayor, and I saw some nodding heads when you were talking. That's true. And the rating agencies look for community support.
It's just the ideas and the people to help carry the project, and, you know, everybody's got something to contribute, and it's not just gonna be 2 or 3 people, it's gonna be many committees. So, Doc, I think that's a very short answer to a very long question.
Amen. Do what we can when we can, but we gotta get it started.
And I'm available. Scott Strand is known for being open with his clients and answering questions. If there's a way that you can get them through the mayor to us, or whatever process is, we will answer them through Bill or.
With Bill and Mrs. Berg, they're gonna be the point people at City Hall on this. For the contact, I'd like to be CC'd on that. At some point, I'd also like to set up a regular update with the council agendas, as well as, you know, forming something for our city website where we can link to the Chamber of Commerce and the school website, and, you know, just get that involvement from the community, so it's transparent from square one. Everybody knows this is what's going on, this is where we are, these are the steps.
I mean, that's certainly something we can do when we have something to put out there. You know, there's some little preliminary documents that we work through with the committee and say, all right, this is ready to go out to the public and say, you know, what's their input, you know?
Crowdsourcing and that kind of thing that's when you start doing that with Scott, and when Strand and you have decided, at least it describes kind of what we want to do.
Does social media kind of have a little involvement here, I mean, such as Facebook? We get some of this information, so we can get it on Facebook. I know we have a website, but I think.
We have a good website.
So we should probably, you know, maybe with social media, probably, get the information out to the people so that they know what's going on and when.
But when the message goes out to the community, it has to be a single message. I mean, to make it work, it's gotta be a single message from the board, and well-defined.
And I think that again filters right through Angela and Bill, putting things out there, and, you know, I mean, it doesn't need to be chaos, it needs to be organized and make sure that the right information's out there, and That way people know who and where to get information from too. So, Mrs. Rickland, I didn't see your hand up, but first told me you were.
Yes, I just have a question, because I know the first thing people are gonna ask is, where is this going to be built? I think that's gonna be the biggest question, the first question is gonna be out there. I mean, it's a wonderful idea, I believe we need a community center, I mean, I'm all for it. But that's gonna be our first question, you gotta have some place you're gonna build it, people are gonna say, why are you spending this money on a project when you don't have, they wanna know where it's gonna be built.
I gotta answer that for just a second. We've looked at multiple sites around town, and the reason why there's been funds that have been spent so far is because the city council, in taking a look at all the different sites, have evaluated positives and negatives with each of the sites. And if you take a look at a couple of pages back, they talk about the spatial needs and the square footage needs and everything like that. I think they did it right when they said that they needed to identify what those spatial needs were, so we knew the approximate footprint of where it was gonna go. Because if you're gonna build a 6-bedroom home versus a 2-bedroom home, that's gonna help decide what size of a lot you're gonna buy. So the work that they've done to date, I think, helps identify the footprint of what we're going to need. And some sites were disqualified purely because of size. They took a look at utility needs, they took a look at traffic and transportation access, they took a look at,
tax roll.
yeah, we didn't wanna take any, or minimize the removal of any properties from the tax roll. You got sirens in the middle of the
Topography, there's all kinds of issues that go into
Yeah.
choosing a
sirens
site.
in the middle of a residential neighborhood, you got access to where a lot of the calls are to. You got, if you've got a municipal center and a library,